Hey, BookTube. Happy Friday, first of all. So sorry that I have been absent again this last week or so. Mark is home, which is super, super exciting. I don't think I mentioned in the last video, but part of this whole job change thing that he's doing means that he's at a job now where he's doing a lot of traveling. So he's actually gone about 3 weeks out of every month. Sometimes it stacks up a little differently because it's like a rotation. So sometimes he's actually home more in a month than not. But like he's basically gone for about 20 days at a time and then he comes home. So this past week has been him being home. So I've been off doing that, being with him and doing mom, wife, fun IRL stuff. But I have also been reading like a ton, which is what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. I didn't want to let a whole week go by without making a video at all. So I figured a Friday Reads would be a good place to start. In terms of things that I just finished 2.5 things. One of them was a novella, an interstitial novella. The first thing was Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. This is a BookTube SFF Award nominee in the young adult category. And I am actually pleasantly surprised by how much I have ended up liking both of the books in this series so far. I think the third one is already out and came out earlier this year, Truth Witch or Sight Witch. Don't quote me on the order, but I will link down below. So I'm really looking forward to finishing out this series. The series does a lot of really interesting things with like family and sisters and like found family and biological family and the interaction between those two. It's also a really cool thing that has to do with like prophecy. I love the magical system in this book. I heard some early critiques from people that sometimes the magical system in this book was a little like too complicated or a little too almost like scientific. So if you've heard that and it's like in any way putting you off, please don't, because I did not find that to be the case. It is really, really interesting and it has basis in like science, like science-based fantasy, but it's not like insurmountable or ungraspable. So I really, really highly recommend you picking it up. Don't really want to say anything else because of course we will be talking about all of the BookTube SFF nominees in the live show that's coming up in about a month. Otherwise, I am just plugging along. I've got a couple more of the adult sci-fi nominees to read and one more of the debut novels to read. I have to finish Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. And then I think I'll be all caught up and I'm very, very excited to hear what some of the other judges think. I think some of our categories are going to be very hotly contested. The other like 1.5 things that I finished is the next, I finished the next Shauna McGuire book, finished the next Toby Day book. I'm very, very, I've never read these before, so I'm very, very slowly reading them. I think there's 12? Something like that, some high number like that. That's number 5. It's in Salt Sea. It's a Selkie book. Selkies, if you don't know, are a mythology that's largely like Irish and Welsh based, and basically they are members of the Fae who are they inhabit seal skins, and they can take off their skin, walk on land, act as human, but they always have to have their skin with them, and then they can put their skin on and return to the sea. It's a very, very interesting set of myths. It's one that I really, really love. It's not everybody's bag, but I really loved it, so I really loved this book. October Day is a kind of, she's a fairy changeling who by this point in the series has had kind of some adjustments to that title, and she basically in every book kind of solves crime because this is one of those really interesting like ongoing series. Like each book is both a bottle episode in and of itself and then also contributes to like much larger story arc. So I don't really want to say anything other than this book gets into a war between the land-based Fae and the sea-based Fae, which is super fucking rad. And then the half that I read was the novella that follows, or the short story actually that follows. It's only like 25 pages right after this book, which is In Sea Salt Tears. And it's the story of the Lewishak and a character that we meet in One Salt Sea. So it's a very interesting, from this point on, most of the Toby Day books have like short stories or novellas that follow them. So I'm really, really excited. I'm planning on picking up the next book just as soon as I kind of get a moment break in my TBR. That's what I really, really like these books for. But I am going to finish all of them before the newest book comes out this year. That is like my long-term goal, but I don't really know when it is that I'm going to pick up the next book. As soon as I finished those, I went ahead and started 2 more things. The first one is Last Shot by Daniel Jose Older. I love Daniel Jose Older. His Bone Street Roomba novels are fantastic. He usually writes like urban fantasy kind of stuff, and they are great. This is him taking on a Star Wars novel. Last Shot is a Han and Lando novel, which like, yes please. Of course it doesn't ever go the way that I want it to go, which is that Han and Lando are basically space boyfriends, but like it's fine. We just don't have to talk about it. But I really love this book. I listened to it on audio. As always, I really recommend listening to all the Star Wars books on audio, as should be no surprise because it's a Disney property now. They do absolutely fantastic production value. There's always like the sound effects and background tracks and transition music, and the narrator does such a fantastic job doing Lando. It is eerily like Billy D, and it's like he's like right here, and it's not the worst thing. I don't hate it. And then the other thing that I started is the first book in the Canesville series, which is Omens by Kelly Armstrong. My friend Lisa recommended these books to me because I was telling her how much I really loved having the Sean McGuire books to like pick up. And this is another one that's in like kind of a similar vein. It's like a paranormal fantasy thriller-y almost kind of book. Basically, this is the story of Olivia, who learns as an adult that her name isn't actually Olivia, it might be Eden, and her parents aren't necessarily her parents. She may in fact be the only child of two very, very famous serial killers. So she's learning that news and wrestling that news. She decides to go back to her small town that she was adopted from to kind of figure out what's going on with her life and her family and her legacy. And being back in the town kind of prompts some interesting things to start happening with her and some abilities that she maybe didn't know that she had or had forgotten that she had. So I'm only about 100 pages into it, but I'm really, really loving it. Each chapter is not very long, and it's creating that really great like momentum where I just like keep flipping the pages to see what's going to happen next. And I really, really like it, which is a good sign because I think they're up to book like 5 or 6 in that series too. So thanks to Lisa for the rec, and I'm super, super loving it. Then there are 2 things that I'm getting ready to start. The first one is a piece of fic. It's finally ready to slot another piece of fic into the rotation, and that's All the Angels and All the Saints. And this is a Stucky fic, Steve Bucky. This is a really, really interesting fic for me because the large majority of this fic is actually spent wrestling with the idea of like Catholicism and Steve's Catholicism and his religion. Also, young Steve in this fic falls very much so into like the Women's Social League and communism and labor unions and labor organization, which like social justice Steve is just one of my favorite Steve iterations. And we get to see all of Steve and Bucky from when they meet very young through everything that happens as they get older and Bucky goes away and Steve goes after him. And it's just like, it's just so much, guys. I've just started it, literally like 5 pages into it, but all the tags are going to be like completely my jam. And I haven't seen Infinity War yet because I don't really care, but I love Steve and Bucky so much. So this is just an absolutely wonderful fic that I'm very much looking forward to. And then the last book that I am just getting ready to start, which is the book from the thumbnail that you saw me holding up, is this book. It's Ship It by Britta London. I am so excited for this book. I first heard about this book somewhere on Twitter, but then Jenny from Reading the End did it in one of her young adult wrap-ups on Lady Business, which I will link down below. And it sounds like so much. It's basically about a girl who writes queer fan fiction for a show that sounds very, very much so like Supernatural. And she goes to a con and she asks one of the lead actors in the show about the queerness of his character, the potential queerness of his character, and the guy kind of like flips out on her. And in order to cover up that and like make better PR, the show invites her to then go on the con tour with the show for the rest of the time. And it's about her like being in love with, or in crush, or in like and growing infatuation with this other girl who's also on the con circuit, and with the 2 actors that star in this show that is admittedly queer-baity. So it's a comment on con culture and fan art and fan contribution and queer baiting and representation and all of those things. And if any of those words, like if you know me at all, those are so many buzzwords that live in my wheelhouse full time. I'm just very, very excited to get to this, you guys. I haven't started it at all, but I'm really looking forward to writing a pretty in-depth review of it because I have a big thing coming out on comparative, like, presentations of fandom culture and recent young adult books. So I'm very, very much so looking forward to getting to this to add to that. Otherwise, you guys can go ahead and tell me what it is that you're reading, how your week has been. I have been watching more videos and keeping up with all of your lovely adventures. It's finally spring here in Kansas. Spring has done sprung. So I'm gonna go outside and do some yard work and then hopefully do more reading on the outside. So yeah, let me know how your week has been, what you're reading, what you have coming up on the agenda and in the weeks ahead. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have happy reading.